Tonight's main event, something sort of a comedy of errors for Boston Connor of the Toxic Table. The good news, you're challenging for the Japan 5-Star Extreme Championship in the main event. The bad news is, it's not the deranged King Ott. You're facing Abdullah the Butcher.
Tonight's Rage main event is a last man standing, no time limit, no rules match, by special arrangement, is for the Japan 5-Star Extreme World Championship.
Okay, Myron. Just the sight of Hamburglar Boston Connor headlining in a main event says that something's not only wrong, but that yo behind is behind you. You just gotta spill honey. How did you rope that dope into this match? You can't not explain it, my guy.
I suppose that's true. Well, long story short, too late. Boston Connor here doesn't pay too much attention to current events. I told him, hey, main event. Yes, no rules match, but it's a championship match, and Scott Bell would be so proud of you guys if you guys won. Now he's thinking, oh, it's deranged King Ott, the old man that I could probably run circles around. Now Dummy didn't bother to find out that about a month and a half ago, Abdullah the Butcher took the no rules title away from deranged King Ott. Well, he found out earlier this afternoon. And I tell you, the kid went white, like Casper the Friendly Ghost white. It was the funniest thing ever. My one regret is that Too Short ain't here to see it. Myron Irving Schimmelman, you are coming dangerously close to having yourself investigated for hazing. In any event, Playboy Gary Hart, representing Abdullah the Butcher in this Japan 5-Star Extreme World Championship match. Purely a temporary managerial situation. Hopefully Abdullah the Butcher won't become part of Playboy Gary Hart's permanent roster. Nonetheless, the new Japan 5-Star Extreme World Champion, defeating deranged King Ott in Japan recently to become the new champion, and where's the pity Boston Connor's finding it out now? Hey, better late than never. But Boston Connor will always be able to say he main evented Rage in a championship match against Abdullah the Butcher.
For more than the card cost we will have, your vehicle looking showroom new, and it's gonna cost a small fortune. Stop in at any of our dozens of convenient locations or call 1-800-CUSTOMS. LS Customs Auto Care. Expensive but worth it, goddammit.
Stupid corporate sponsors. Oh well, beats the hell out of having a bunch of logos all over the canvas.
The challenger, representing the Toxic Table for Bell Unlimited, along with AJ Hawk, from Parts Unknown, Weight Unknown, here is Boston Connor. His opponent, along with manager Playboy Gary Hart, from the Sudan, weighing 362 pounds, the current Japan 5-Star Extreme World Champion, Abdullah the Butcher.
This match will be contested under Japan 5-Star Hardcore rules, which is like standard hardcore rules, which is no rules at all. But instead of pins or tap-outs, you win if your opponent can't get up before a count of 10 from the referee. They kind of married standard hardcore and last man standing matches. Pretty neat. Don't think I've ever seen one like this here in our WL.
No, that's something else that Boston Connor will get to brag about, assuming he lives long enough. Boston Connor, I feel, may be out of his element. This isn't even a traditional match with pinfalls or submissions. As Willie Johnson sounds the bell, the main event is on. Abdullah the Butcher with a forearm, taking down Boston Connor as Playboy Gary Hart looks on. Boston Connor back to a standing position, shoved back by Abdullah the Butcher. A right, a left, a kick to the body, and an overhand right to the back. So Boston Connor, Abdullah the Butcher, going under the ring, comes up with a light tube. My goodness, that is dangerous. Abdullah the Butcher with mounted punches to Boston Connor as AJ Hawk looks on. A very close call for Boston Connor. Abdullah didn't brain him with that light tube, and that may still happen. Abdullah the Butcher off the ropes. Drop kick to the side of the head of Boston Connor. And here we go. Abdullah's got that light tube. Throws it back down. Boston Connor stepping outside, catching his breath for a moment. This is definitely not the deranged King Ott. AJ Hawk getting into it with Abdullah the Butcher, but all in vain. He's not going to get any real concrete discussion here. Head first into the turnbuckle goes Boston Connor. Abdullah the Butcher hanging him up in the tree of woe. And oh, whoa. No, you've got to be kidding me. Look at this. Abdullah the Butcher all the way up on the top turnbuckle on the other side. Boston Connor still hung up. He goes coast to coast and connects with it. Boston Connor caught all of it. Abdullah the Butcher catching a piece of it himself. He don't care. He's always high risk. Abdullah the Butcher waiting for the count here. But Boston Connor right back up again. Abdullah the Butcher slams him into the turnbuckle, pitches him towards center ring, almost into the light tube. Willie Johnson counting. Abdullah the Butcher looking on. Boston Connor still hasn't stirred yet. Wait a minute, here we go. There's some life left in Boston Connor. A clubbing right from Abdullah the Butcher. Abdullah catching elbows to the midsection from Boston Connor. I can believe he realized he's fighting for his life in there. A set of body shots from Boston Connor, but a clothesline from Abdullah the Butcher. And again, Willie Johnson counting a downed Boston Connor. Abdullah the Butcher working the crowd. Deftly steps over his target. AJ Hawk getting into it with Abdullah. Again, a clothesline to the back of the head for Boston Connor. And an opportunity to capitalize here, but Abdullah puts on the brakes. A clothesline takes him down again. Boston Connor not faring too well in his first championship main event. Definitely one he's going to want to forget. The ref counting. Oh, here we go. Boston Connor back up. Abdullah the Butcher goes behind. Rear waist lock. Locks him up. Collar and elbow. Takes him up over the shoulder. Takes a walk with Boston Connor. Hangs him up off the top rope and down goes Boston Connor. Again, Willie Johnson counting Boston Connor. And so far, Abdullah the Butcher has not been counted by the referee, not even one time. The advantage entirely belonging to Abdullah the Butcher. A knee to the head of Boston Connor. And he's got that light tube again. This is not good. The ref counting. Boston Connor laid out, barely moving, as Abdullah the Butcher stalks him with that light tube in hand. And oh, swing and a miss. Oh, right, oh. And now the ring covered in shards of razor sharp glass. That cannot possibly be good. Boston Connor laid out. The referee counting again. And Abdullah the Butcher may have just finished. No, Boston Connor back to a standing position. Abdullah the Butcher gathers him up. A chop block to the back of the knee from Boston Connor. Fighting for survival here. As he charges Abdullah the Butcher, there's a forearm that takes the Butcher down into the corner. Boston Connor driving a knee into the chest of Abdullah the Butcher. And for the first time, Boston Connor, with something appearing to be an advantage in this match, off the ropes and a crash and burn, a moonsault with nobody home. Abdullah the Butcher whips Connor to the ropes. Connor quickly countering. Boston Connor whips Abdullah into the corner. A chair introduced into the ring by Playboy Gary Hart, and it's as legal as Traveler's Aid. Boston Connor getting into it now with Playboy Gary Hart as Abdullah the Butcher gets back to a standing position, gets a hold of him. Boston Connor hurled into the corner forcefully by Abdullah the Butcher. Rounded up, front cradle, fireman's carry on the top head, but in, oh, and that exposed turnbuckle. Abdullah the Butcher asserting himself as Willie Johnson again counts Boston Connor. Boston Connor being taunted by Playboy Gary Hart. Talk about humiliation. Myron, I think you might have gone just a little bit too far this time. I don't. Remember, they went to work for Scott Bell. They're fair game. Well, if you say so. Boston Connor again crashing and burning with a moonsault to nowhere. Abdullah the Butcher locks him up from behind and slams him down on the flat of his back against the canvas. Abdullah the Butcher firmly in control in this Japan 5-Star Extreme World title match. AJ Hawk deciding what's good for the goose is good for the gander, exposing the other turnbuckle. Abdullah the Butcher rounds up that steel chair. Boston Connor quickly disarms him, whips him towards the ropes. An elbow takes Abdullah the Butcher down. Abdullah crawling towards the corner. Boston Connor right there waiting for him. And there's a hard chop across the chest. Abdullah the Butcher goes down, but not counted yet. Abdullah the Butcher rounded up into a Russian leg sweep by Boston Connor. Boston Connor with a right. Abdullah the Butcher against the ropes. Boston Connor has him. Oh, look at this. Oh! What a head scissor DDT from off the ropes, if you will. Wow. That was insane. Boston Connor resorting to desperation maneuvers here, knowing full well he is basically fighting for his life in there. A chop block to the back of the knee of Abdullah the Butcher, still not being countered by the official in this last man standing title match. Boston Connor all the way up on the top turnbuckle. Abdullah the Butcher catches the cross body from Boston Connor. And now looks like he's got the advantage in his court. Whip to the ropes. Abdullah the Butcher with a power slam to Boston Connor. And once again, the referee counting Boston Connor to a count of 5. Abdullah the Butcher regaining control of this one quickly. The ring a mess. Broken glass everywhere. Junk all over the place. Into the steel chair and curb stomped by Abdullah the Butcher, who now rounds up a steel chair and proceeds to waylay Boston Connor with it. Boston Connor is motionless, again being counted by the referee. AJ Hawk looking on with some degree of concern. AJ Hawk now really starting to take a beating at the hands of Abdullah the Butcher. He stands up. Abdullah charges towards him. Elbows to the midsection of Boston Connor. Boston Connor rounded up, slammed into the steel turnbuckle and pitched into the steel chair center ring. Boston Connor colliding with all sorts of hardware, and there's an elbow to the chest, as if everything else had not been enough. Again, AJ Hawk trying to reason with the unreasonable Abdullah the Butcher. It's just not going to happen. AJ Hawk as wisely giving up the ghost on that one. Boston Connor catches a right to the head, a left to the body, and a scoop slam center ring to Boston Connor. Again, the referee counting. Abdullah the Butcher looking like he's got that title already retained, as Boston Connor has not been able to get Abdullah the Butcher down for a count, not even once so far. Boston Connor with an elbow, a quick kip up. Abdullah the Butcher catches an inverted atomic drop. Boston Connor scoop slams the big man. Wow. A kick to the back. Playboy Gary Hart rallying Abdullah the Butcher. Abdullah whip to the rope, drop toe hold, face first into the canvas. Goes Abdullah the Butcher as Boston Connor goes under the ring and comes up with a kendo stick. Oof, right across the midsection and across the back of Abdullah the Butcher. And the tides have definitely turned. Oof, pitched it right at his face. Abdullah the Butcher being beaten back. And a DDT. And for the first time, Abdullah the Butcher being countered by the referee. Boston Connor back to a standing position first. And Abdullah the Butcher Finally answering the count, the ref returns to the ring. Boston Connor taunting Abdullah the Butcher, and that might be a costly mistake. Abdullah the Butcher whipped into the steel, and that was a painful impact. Boston Connor with an opportunity to exploit the mistakes here and perhaps become the new Japan 5-star Extreme World Champion. Forearm to Abdullah the Butcher taken down to the canvas. Playboy Gary Hart urging Abdullah to get stood up again. And he's not moving. The ref is counting. But again, Abdullah the Butcher stirs. An overhand right. A rebound off the ropes and an elbow to Abdullah the Butcher. Nicely done by Boston Connor. Abdullah the Butcher being counted by the referee. And that's starting to happen a lot more often for Boston Connor. Abdullah whipped into the steel again, but doesn't quite go down. And one more time, but this time he does go down. Boston Connor rounds up Abdullah the Butcher and whips him back into it one more time for good measure. Abdullah the Butcher finding himself at a disadvantage with the referee counting. He could get a new Extreme World Champion for Japan 5-star Wrestling. Playboy Gary Hart really reading Boston Connor the riot act. Abdullah whipped into the steel corner one more time. And this is starting to look bad for Abdullah the Butcher. He's just being bounced back and forth like a pinball off a bumper. Boston Connor rounds up Abdullah, winds him up, Russian leg sweep. This could be the end here. Abdullah the Butcher could be taken down as champion only about 60 days into his title reign by Boston Connor of the Toxic Table. It would be unbelievable. The referee still counting. And Boston Connor celebrating. Abdullah the Butcher back up, and mandible claw time. Whoa. Abdullah the Butcher has lost it. He has had more than enough. Boston Connor again. One more time into that mandible claw, trying to choke out Boston Connor. And wow, Abdullah the Butcher absolutely relentless. Unbelievable. Boston Connor struggling to a standing position here, trying to battle back, but no. For a third time, the mandible claw. And that could be it for Boston Connor. He is motionless. The referee counting. Abdullah the Butcher pacing. Boston Connor doing absolutely nothing. I don't believe it. There it is. That is going to do it. Abdullah the Butcher retains the Japan Extreme World Championship. Wow. Abdullah not quite finished here. The referee going, here, take that belt and get out of here. Boston Connor lucky to be walking away from this one under his own power. What a match.
Here's the time, 14 minutes and 17 seconds. Your winner, and still J5 Extreme World Champion, Abdullah the Butcher.
Okay, Abdullah wins, retains his title, fine, but whatever this is, keep it the hell away from me. You're gonna have to live with what you did to that boy Myron. I hope you're proud of yourself.
You have no idea, Kristen. You have just no idea. Abdullah the Butcher starting to give an upper hand to Boston Connor near the end of this match, but he went absolutely berserk and went and laid 3 mandible claws on Boston Connor till he just didn't move anymore. And that one right there was the beginning of the end. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this week's edition of RWL Rage. Thank you for joining us. We will be back again soon. Stay tuned, because coming up next, it's RWL Ladies Night. For all of us here, Don Hickson saying thanks, good night, and we'll see you next time at ringside.